Alrighty, alrighty. Hold on. I just hit record right away. Just finished 2 follow-ups. So now we gotta see which chart I'm gonna do right now. Hold on. Okay. We're doing is it this one or that one? Where is it? Hold on, let me calculate something in my head real quick. 8, 9, 8, 13, 9, 13, 10. Okay, so that's good. So we gotta do this one. Where is it? Here we are. Let's change the name. Okay, let's share this. I'm gonna go on, get into my meditation mode, so I'm gonna turn the camera off a little bit, turn it back on. Okay. All right, so we have a Chiron conjunct Sun, Taurus 11, Libra Moon conjunct Saturn. Ooh. All right, then Ascendant conjunct North Node, Cancer. It's very interesting. Well. So, not so many aspects of this spirit. You have Chiron, yeah. Another one. I swear to God, the amount of my clients that have Venus in Aries, it is mind-boggling. I swear it is over 50%. And you wouldn't think that. Like, it doesn't um I've come to the conclusion that it's probably related to Venus is what you value, and Aries is the self. So I think people with Venus and Aries seem to be people who are really, really interested in learning about themselves, and they value their independence, they value their individuality, and yeah. But anyways, so with that conjunction of moon, so um moon in Libra with Saturn is very interesting. A lot of times people with that moon Saturn conjunction, and you were in 82. Okay, so a lot of times, for the first 30 years or so, they're, it can create someone that's, quite introverted, where there can be some issues with with emotion, like expressing vulnerability, expressing their emotions. Now it does tend to have like a quite stabilizing and grounding effect on emotions. And creates someone who has quite good self-control, quite realistic and stuff like that. But also they can sometimes be quite lonely, introverted. Some and even with Uranus, um, Uranus opposite Mercury, it can definitely create someone who perhaps in the 12th house too, who like especially Mercury and Gemini, it can create someone who's like extremely intelligent, outside the box, but a little bit eccentric, outside the box in terms of their way of communicating, their way of thinking, and they can they can feel very misunderstood growing up, um, which can have an effect on their self-esteem with the Chiron in Taurus. And um yeah, so it's difficult. And a lot of times what I see with the moon and Saturn is that the people, it creates people who have to really grow up fast. So 1 second. What's up? Reading. What? My third one. Mm, So yeah, I actually just had a child's chart the other day who had that, and yeah, she really struggled with like connecting with other kids. It just, a lot of times with that, it can create someone who, yeah, like they just had to grow up very early, very fast in life and mature. A lot of times there's lots of emotional hardships early on, typically around the mother. Um, and it can definitely, yeah, make some, they can really carry on a lot of guilt, sadness, any kind of negative emotions that the mother might have. They can carry it as well. And a lot of times the mom was, I don't like to really say which parent, the nurturing parent, the feminine parent, just the upbringing in general. um yeah, there could have been a level of them being quite cold, even mean, overly structured. And there's a huge need to feel valued, um and like you're needed, but that like that your contribution is needed, especially as a Libra moon, regardless of the aspect. Just really, really wanting to help, to be there for other people, and to find that balance within and without. So what can be difficult here is that if there is a difficult relationship with the mother, and I'm going to read your Squarespace, the notes you left for the reading in a sec, but if there is that difficult relationship, what can happen is that the Libra moon can struggle with letting go, in the sense of, with creating boundaries that need to be created. Um, so one of the shadows of Libra moon is that there can be, yeah, a certain level of people pleasing, right? So yeah, I mean that's just, you know where it can be difficult, right? Because if there is like and moon and air signs also sometimes can have difficulty connecting to their emotions. It's not that they're not emotional, it's just that that there's, it's air element, right? So it can be sometimes like a more of an intellectualization of emotions rather than feeling them. So I always say, like, there's the Cancer moon and the Libra moon, and two things, the same thing can happen to each of them. And the Libra moon um might feel that in like 7 months or 8 months, while the Cancer moon would feel it right away. So it's like really about, it's a test and this goes back to your North Node, right? Your North Node's in Cancer. So you're here to form that spiritual relationship with yourself. You're here to really delve into your feminine in this lifetime, right? As a Cancer rising with North Node and Cancer. But also a big karmic thing for you is around sovereignty. Um, right? It's around reclaiming your independence, because in past lives with your South Node on the descendant, there, with Juno, there could be a tendency to be too intertwined in relationships, to the point to where it might push you away from your individuation, right? From the process of you getting to know yourself on that deep level. So and that goes back to boundaries again, right? So more about that, yeah, that moon energy. um it's definitely creates a very loyal person. Um and someone who, yeah, who just really wants to work hard to kind of achieve the stability and very solid foundations in their life, right? Sometimes it can be a little bit conservative by nature. It can be a little bit risk adverse also. But at the end of the day, you'd be a great healer. You'd be someone that people can come to during times of difficulty. And you know, I would say that you definitely would. This type of chart would definitely strike me as someone who, like there's some people who are very talented healers, but they can get too stuck and take on too much of the energy of, let's say, their clients who are going through something horrible, or friends or family or whatever. So, you would have the ability to be objective and logical in those situations. So that's quite nice. And yeah, like with Saturn, like everything, like it takes a lot of hard work, but then by the time you hit your Saturn return, like after that, things, everything gets better with age with Saturn. And it's like this constant work on emotional um vulnerability and allowing yourself to be heard and feel valued and connecting with other people on a deep level. But then and it really, a lot of it comes from being, like, if there was any programming from parents or society that led you to be too strict on yourself and to be too self-critical. It's really about leaning into self-compassion to release yourself from that, right? But a lot of people with that can be quite shy. They can be prone, like I said, prone to depression, isolating themselves. Sometimes there's some inferiority complexes, and of course, like I said, with the intimacy, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, the goal with that is emotional maturity. And when we tie it back to your North Node, which is where you're trying to get to in this lifetime, it really is that point of that metaphoric mountain you're trying to climb. It's very likely that you've had, recent past lives where you were a male. And a lot of times with people with that, they can sometimes, with the South Node cap, they can sometimes connect more with their um, masculine side. Now, also the nodes are square Saturn, and that's the ruling planet of the South Node. So that makes me think that karmically, you really there is like some carried over past life guilt or shame or something of that nature from past lives, and it most likely, and also conditioning, right? So it most likely came from past lives where maybe you lived in a society, or whatever, where you weren't able to really be yourself. Um, so yeah, it really is, yeah, the condition that you've been exposed to through, yeah, through family, society, religion, or any kind of, historical theme, right? Which can, yeah, that can lead to the soul repressing parts of itself. So that is the journey for you. It's how can you express your emotions? How can you find the bravery to really, really dig deep with respect to the emotions, and express yourself. Your ascendant in Cancer as a major part of you, where you're able to have your very authentic, you know your emotions, they're yours. We're able to have those and express them and not feel fear for doing that. Yeah, really, like, you're here to mature, um and really take responsibility for your own life. That's another theme with North Node. I mean, but like, I think that you've done that. You've done that on a level of for example, hard work, right? Because like with South Node, which is, the South Node in Capricorn, that's the been there, done that in past lives. So it could have been like that you were too structured, um, two, playing by the book, and you're here to really develop the spiritual, emotional relationship with yourself. Um, and yeah, it's really, really also about, getting away from fear or blame, you know, playing victim, that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that you do that. I'm saying that that's typically what I see with this type of thing. Um, but yeah, a lot of people I see with this, it's like they feel like they come into this lifetime with this feeling of guilt, right? This feeling of like they did something wrong or something, right? And when we look at just the idea of being self-critical, and especially with like the moon is also square the node, so that's very, very likely that you and your mother have some type of difficult karmic relationship, and you're here, and you mother slash family, and that you may have felt misunderstood by them. You may have felt and yep, I was expecting that. You have sun quincunx moon, so where perhaps both of your parents, maybe they're divorced, or maybe it's not necessarily that, but a lot of times with that, there's a very big difference between the overall message that you receive from parent A compared to parent B. And the goal is to create your own destiny that's separate from both of them. Like, we all take things from our family, right? We all take things from our parents, whether it's unconscious or something we understand. In some way, we're shaped by them. But here it's just speaking of the importance of really, really, really defining, what do I need to do? What kind of boundaries do I need to set if there are issues there? So yeah, this makes the Saturn return even more massive, right, for you, or made it more massive. A big thing is allow is like is with anything that you could look at as a mistake that you made, any kind of past mistake. It's just really about recognizing them and making direct reparations for those mistakes, and that starts with truly, truly um just having that self-compassion, and um not being too hard on yourself, right? That's really what it is, because what can happen is that it can become it can lead to like certain self-limiting beliefs of what you think is possible for yourself. So while I'm saying all this, if you would have had this chart reading, let's say when you're 26, it really is all about timing. I mean, I would have read the same way. So, astrology, the way I do astrology, it's your chart meets your free will. So everything I'm laying out to you right now, this is your free will and the work you've done and all that stuff. That's really what's going to be the game, the real determining factor, right? It's the mix of these two. So you could have done a lot of this work already. So yeah. But yeah, so with the moon, um yeah, a lot of times it's just issues with the family of origin, right? And kind of how, and just with different emotions. Usually the mother. Especially with this, with moon and Saturn together squaring the nodes. So um what can happen is there can be a sort of like emotional insecurity and certain emotional components that are passed down from past lives that when you have these squares to the nodes and any kind of tough aspects to the nodes, it's like you don't like for example, I have Pluto square my nodes, right, which is like the ultimate past life trauma, and I came into this life not like like having all the signs of someone who has intense trauma, but I didn't really have the thing that happened in my childhood that would have correlated to that fully, right? So yeah, just understanding that this comes from past lives is so healing in my, for me at least, and for many of my clients who have these types of aspects. So yeah. Um Hold on. Mhm. So yeah, and also like this is another clue with the moon square nodes that can, yeah, that's another one that could indicate unresolved gender issues. You know, I've had clients who are like, yeah, like I always felt like I was a male in a past life, or like, yeah. So like, yeah, there can be like a dissatisfaction in gender roles. Some, you know, it can come from like the very patriarchal bias of our culture, and kind of that repression of the feminine archetype. But yeah, like I said earlier, it could also really just be like a recent gender switch between, you know, this incarnation and the previous one. So um yeah, that kind of lines up with a lot of the stuff I'm seeing here. So when that's the case, you know, it really is about diving into your feminine, and that means getting into your, you know, to your emotions, allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Um, you know, whether that comes from having kids, right? A lot of times North Node Cancer are meant to be nurturers, so it's not necessarily you have to have kids. It's just like that definitely could, you know, for North Nodes and Cancer, sometimes that can be one of their biggest karmas, right? One of the biggest things they're here to do. So yeah, so I think, yeah, with Moon and Libra conjunct Saturn, another interesting part of that too is that it is really about like the Saturn on the Moon. It makes it like, it kind of makes it like having a Libra slash Capricorn Moon. Obviously it's still in Libra, but like either way, you're trying to unwind yourself energetically. There can be these stuck emotional patterns from past lives, right? Um, which, yeah, can come from what I was mentioning before, the conditioning and all that. And it's really, for you, the goal is to unwind, to release yourself from them, and to it's like, think of the emotions as they want to be liquid and flowing like water. But with Saturn, it makes them kind of rock. Saturn represents rock. So it's like there can be these crystallized emotional patterns that need liquefaction, metaphorically. So how do you get liquefaction? It's just about that healing work, you know, which can take so many different forms. Um, but really, you know, one of the biggest things I see with you know, a lot of the Saturn Capricorn moon, you know, just Saturn in general on the moon, is that sometimes there can be too much of a desire to be under, to be like um to fit in. And sometimes that's like the shadow. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying that sometimes they can, there can be issues with just being the authentic self, right? So the fact that your sun is in Taurus, right, which is all about the here, the now, engaging the senses, stability, um, you know, patience. You know, I'm not gonna, you know about your sun sign. I'm not gonna go into explaining, you know, sun and Taurus. We get it. Everyone knows, you know, about their sun sign. But really, the thing with this energy is that on the sun and the moon sign, there can be a level of feeling stuck, and the polarity point, meaning the opposite point, meaning the healing point of the sun in Taurus, is Scorpio, the opposite sign, which is about death, rebirth, transformation. Now, this is a very loaded 3 words, a very loaded process, and it simplifies that process just by saying it in that way. I understand that, but a lot of times Taurus can have issues with letting go, with allowing themselves to move towards a new future that might seem risky. Like for example, the person that grows up in the town they're in, and everything's good, and they have their life filled with their old friends. They're, they just everything kind of like flows in a way, and they like it, but there is that need to be adventurous and to take risks. Adventures is one of the keys to life, right? Like we don't necessarily grow so much. And I'm not saying you have to be reckless, you have to go do this, go do that. Like it's just about having energetic room in your life so that you can let go of things, or not, no, having energetic room in your life so that you can so that you can make changes and do things and not feel like your life is completely full. With that said though, Saturn, on the moon, it's like, you do have a very deep karmic duty. So whether you have kids or whether, like a lot of the circumstances in your life, they're meant to happen, right? The big ones. But at the same time, yeah, like there is a lot of letting go that Tauruses need to do. But some are better than others when it comes to that. And the fact that the sons with Chiron, usually that speaks to someone, whether it's the father, son, just feeling kind of like it actually creates a healer, right? Um, but they have to go through healing themselves first. And then through that, they tend to find a lot of talents that they have, right? Karmic talents around, and it develops so a lot, and with Pluto and Jupiter on your IC, um, it is this mix of the childhood most likely having been, Pluto is 7 degrees in the IC, so and Jupiter's only 2, so Jupiter's closer. Jupiter on the IC is very, very good for childhood. Pluto on the IC is very, very bad, meaning that a lot of people with Pluto on the IC, like myself, mine's square the node, so mine's more speaking about past lives, but still, I had some, some bad things in my childhood. There tends to be like kind of an explosive, almost like not feeling safe or secure early on, which can lead to escapism. It can lead to kind of checking out. But with Jupiter, that's the opposite. So two things can be true. One can have a childhood that had some level of trauma or some level of difficulty, while also having had a childhood that, or having like an internal optimism that even keeps them going during tough times, right? A certain ability to see the big picture and to still have that glass is half full instead of half empty mindset, even through difficult times. So Jupiter is in Scorpio too. That is a bullshit meter. So that's a very good gift. Also, you're definitely someone who's able to connect with ancestors, who's able to really connect deeply on a spiritual level. And that's, something that could be very, very good. And it goes with that Sun Chiron energy. But yeah, one of the key things here, I just think in the whole chart is letting go of the need to be, like other people, and just accepting that, not everyone's going to get you, right? Like I always say, Mercury Uranus in aspect, it can create a mind that's very, very fast, but if it's in opposition, especially in Gemini, right, it could create a hidden genius, right? So it could create someone who's super, super intelligent and creative and thinking future minded, like thinking ahead of their time, very deep, but then not really understood by others. And especially like if it's more traditional types of people, can some even times feel a little bit triggered by that. A lot of times with my clients, I see people who came from quite conservative backgrounds, um, where they weren't really shown to question everything, but that's what they did naturally. And, with your Jupiter there, it's going to make you want to really go beneath the surface to find the answers. But yeah, and even, yeah, Neptune, Black Moon, Lilith, just very, very witchy ability to, yeah, to really see past things. And then it's very interesting too, with Mercury and Uranus in the sixth, that's where I have mine also, that will create someone who, wants, like, I would not be surprised if you were a healer in some type of way. And that can be a million, that's not just astrologer, psychologist, doctor, it could be a musician, it could be so many things, right? So, like Neptune in the sixth house people, they tend to have a big time issue with like the monotonous day-to-day grind of just go to your job, do this. Like they want meaning, right? They want meaning in their life. So that's why a lot of people with that prefer to have daily life schedules and with that are more hold on. Yeah, like having like day-to-day lives that are a little bit more unconventional. In one second. My eyes. Love life, marriage, and career development. Okay, gotcha. Hold on, I need to check one thing. One sec. Okay. Sorry, I just have to read something. Yep. Okay, cool. Just need to check when my video posted. Um, yeah. Okay, got it. So, yeah, I mean, like, like with yeah, we'll get to love and career, but yeah, like it really is. I mean, these are the big karmic themes, and there could also be a level um of really feeling like you're holding on to a lot when it comes to your like healing the bloodline, the maternal bloodline in your family. And a lot of times I get clients who have Pluto, with like square op or conjunct moon. You have a conjunction of the moon. It's not a tight conjunction, but it's still there. And yeah, it really brings up a lot of themes around the shadow and around a lot of times being very, very intense emotionally, with like extreme highs and lows. And yeah, there's just a lot of a need for like a creative outlet, an outlet for everything. I think that can resonate with career. But I was speaking about career, right? So, with Mercury, I'm gonna go back. I like being in my meditation mode right now, closing my eyes, and it looks really weird on camera. Um, I think with Mercury Uranus, it's just like that people with that, they want to be doing something very unique. Um, and they can get, yeah, like I said, can create a genius and um but very rebellious. So like a huge need for stimulation, but it can also bring anxiety because the mind can be moving so fast, right? But that's where being a Taurus helps you because that brings you stability. But I would say with work, just something where you feel mentally challenged, where you feel like, it's you know, challenging work that also gives you enough freedom, and where you're able to answer some of the deeper questions you have, and maybe even using your Jupiter, Scorpio talent of being, very, very intuitively gifted. Um, yeah, so honestly, it could be anything from like healing, but also even like anything related to like technology, even science, even like math, media, stuff like that, right? But it's very inventive, right? The way, and having Mercury in Gemini is someone who's very good at speaking, and very, yeah, it's very good for intelligence. So, um, a lot, like I could see, like, working behind the scenes, even something through the internet, um, which could be really good for like helping build confidence. But yeah, that's an interesting part of your chart for sure. And I think, being able to socialize with people from different backgrounds is really important, and being able to kind of have people with different worldviews that, really, really, people who you can really learn from, right? So yeah. Also, like, just random things with that. It's like, um, really just like random things like, um, checking like the fine print on documents, like any kind of like contract or documents like that is really, really important. Um, it could lead to like random like technological breakdowns. And even like with something like with a car, like regularly like servicing and making sure that, like, all these like little things are important. But okay, so as I was saying, with Neptune in the sixth, that, yeah, and Uranus there, it's like someone who wants to have a very lots of freedom in their life, in their day-to-day life. And Uranus in sixth house, I always say, like I said, I have that. I go to bed at like so late, like sometimes like as late as 7 a.m. And, I'd say, I sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5, sometimes I just have different phases, right? Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes I'm going to bed at 3. But the point is it's not just sleep. It's like in your day-to-day routine, it's about you doing it how you want to do it. Like there's people who are night, and interestingly, a lot of the Uranus sixth house people I've met are night people. But not everyone. Like our society is built right in a way where it's, your Mercury in the 12th. Maybe your mind, your intuition comes live at night, perhaps, right? But a lot of the times, yeah, it can be tough, right? Because our society says we have to be, working during these hours, but sometimes in human design shows us very well. Some people, you know, they get activated at night, right? And I'm not a human design pro, so I don't know, but I do have a friend that does that. If you're ever interested, my friend Monica, she's super talented. So yeah, that's something. And I think yeah, so I think that like it really is like a lot of different potentials of what you might be able to, do or want to do. um but yeah, they just the need for that freedom, and that for that ability to really be creative, and move how you truly want to move, right? So, when we talk about the like relationship stuff, um obviously there is that south node on the descendant, so it's really about finding the balance um between like it's like finding the balance between like on one extreme independence, which you don't want, like where you're just so independent, where you're not willing to compromise at all, because relationships obviously need compromise. But then the other extreme is codependency, where it's like I can't do anything, like I need love, I need this. And this actually goes back to your Venus square Neptune, and Mars is square Neptune too. So when you have that, you really like there could be some karmic codependency stuff going on here, perhaps. So, and with Venus square Neptune, that's like the aspect that speaks about rose-colored glasses in love and the potential to not see individuals that you might be interested in for what they truly are. It's really important with people with that aspect to take things very slow in love. Um, because sometimes, a lot of times, and I have a lot of clients who've had this, there can be, and I feel like nearly everyone is like, yep, spot on. It's like just like they can be overly idealistic and fail to see the truth. And instead of that, they allow themselves to believe, and it can lead to lots of disappointments in love, right? But really, it comes from self-love. Venus is self-love, and it can be related to low self-esteem, early on. All these aspects, aspects are meant to be turned into assets, right? That's what I always say. So, a lot of times, like this can ultimately create someone that's very romantic, also very creative, very, very creative. But yeah, I would say even also with spending, Venus is spending, you'd have to watch out for um, like how you spend, and it goes back to the idea of just making sure you don't allow the wrong types of whether it's business partners or just like lawyers or just whatever it is, people that can have an effect on your, and just like not, yeah, just being you know, spending in a responsible way, right? So yeah, it comes down to self-love. Um, Obviously it's like the whole thing of like you are your own garden, instead of if trying to go find someone, just improve yourself and people will come, right? It's like that whole metaphor, right? So yeah, with the Venus, some people with that square Neptune can feel unlovable, feel like they're too different or too strange in the eyes of others. Um, but it's really important to realize that what you might think others might think of you is not accurate. It creates a certain level of fog there, right? Um, and if there were any truth in that, it would be mainly due to any signals that you are sending out about yourself, right? So it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, it really is like about like a distortion of self-image. That's the best way I could define it. And yeah, so one of the best ways to deal with Neptune tough transits is to use to film yourself. I had this idea, and then I started telling people about it, and they started working it. So you can like film yourself doing a video where you just talk about your emotions, and you don't have to show anyone. It's just for you. Also mirrors. Neptune rules cameras and mirrors. So um yeah, that's one interesting way, is to have like a creative, dealing with like doing affirmations in the mirror, stuff like that. Um, Seeing yourself on a screen or talking to a screen, yeah. And also with Venus, obviously it rules beauty, so doing anything that can, improve, that you feel like improves your appearance, whether it's fashion, cosmetics, whatever, um, dancing, could be really good. Anything that really makes you feel beautiful, right? That's the key with this transit, because it has nothing to do with someone being beautiful or not beautiful. It's just purely um like Neptune is the in the square, it's the fog, it's distortion of the image. So yeah. um and yeah, like I said, it can distort the appreciation one has for others, and yeah, like the over idealization, and like people can be very easily taken advantage of, who have that, um by like narcissistic types, the energy vampires, right? And also one thing that can come up for this is addiction and escapism, abuse, especially with Moon with Saturn. If there is like periods of depression, and like I said, I would not be surprised if you've overcome a lot of this stuff in the in post Saturn return. But yeah, like people with this sometimes they yeah they can kind of like have self abuse, whether it's like unhealthy eating, alcohol, drugs, medications, that kind of stuff. And it's also very, with Neptune squaring your Mars, also it's a T square, right? There's a T square. You have Venus opposite um Mars, and there's T squaring Neptune right here, right? It pushes out in can in the 12th house in Gemini. So that's really speaking to how the best way you can deal with this is through that spiritual journey with yourself and getting deeper into spirituality and the divine, and also having alone time for yourself, right? Where you're able to perhaps have relationships that you take them more slowly, um, and also just communication, right? Having that solid communication. So um yeah. And also, with Juno there on the south node, usually that tends to like bring very karmic partners. Yeah. So and the fact that it is in, yeah, just a level of fate associated with relationships, people from past lives coming up. And the fact that, yeah, Juno is like kind of like your ideal love, like someone that you could like really be deeply, deeply committed to. In Capricorn, it just speaks to wanting someone who is, it's the seventh house too, so it's Libra house or connected with Libra. So that is, very, very houses and signs aren't the same thing, but it's just a, it's there's similarities. But the point of that is that you know, really wanting, and that's a Libra moon thing too, is wanting that fair balance and that peace in relationships. Um, but I think like with Saturn on your moon, just the importance of being able to truly open up to a partner is massive. Um, and yeah, with Juno and Capricorn, usually people with that, they want someone who is passionate about their mission, who has a level of integrity, maybe even a level of success. Sometimes it's someone who's older, or at least more mature, and yeah, someone who who really is consistent, someone who they can rely on, who has a level of you know respect for you and respect for themselves and respect for the union, and who wants to create something that's going to last, not just something that's whatever. Because yeah, with the Saturn moon, you want something that has those solid foundations, which is why it's so important to take things slow as they come up. um so yeah, I would say like a lot. I've seen a lot of people really, really gain from whether it's psychotherapy or whatever, just around what Neptune can do to the self image. So around stuff with love and whatnot, or affairs, related to romantic love, because it really is completely based on how one sees themselves. So yeah, um, Venus and Aries, interesting as a placement where one will want to be a lot of times Venus and Aries people won't have so much, like, well, you have a lot of aspects that might push that kind of away, but they value independence in relationships. But a lot of times they can be quite go-getters. Like if they like someone, they'll go towards that person. But I've also seen enough people tell me that that's not the case, and the square with Venus and Neptune could push that away. Now Mars, it's in Libra, which can be, it's retrograde also, so that can be quite indecisive. um, so that's another big challenge, is really getting away from people pleasing, really being able to have a solid basis of like it's almost like a constitution of yourself, where you're like, all right, I can go with, like, I can make myself what am I, like I'm making this decision because of this value I have, right? Instead of, because a lot of times with Venus and or Mars and Libra, there can be a level of anxiety that comes up around making decisions, and they can sometimes like rely on someone else. No, you choose for me, you choose for me, right? So yeah, and then also there can be a like there's a huge drive to help people, right? That's in with even the Mars and Neptune, it's like someone who really wants to be of service, right? Who really feels like a powerful mission to protect people, and whether it's people, animals, environment, whatever, something really, really they want to do something great for the world, and for they see the metaphysical value it being more important than the physical. But obviously, in this world we have to have one foot in each. But yeah, like just with that energy in general, in the retrograde also, it would indicate that in past lives, there's either an under or an over acting. And um so you're really here to like on that level, and it's 0 degrees too, so that's really a lot of free will around your actions. And um with Neptune, it can really distort, like people with that, they can sometimes, like if they're going in a very traditional route, they can feel really, really lost. And that also goes to the house Neptune's in. They can feel like, what am I doing? Why am I moving in this direction? um yeah. So when they have a life, work, whatever it is, that gives them this feeling of connection with the divine, which a lot of times comes from helping others in some way, that's when they start to really feel like, even in the most difficult times, like I'm healing myself through healing other people, and I'm feeling that connection. Like it's like me right now, right? I'm doing this reading. I had two follow-ups before this. I felt how my work is truly helping people, right? And that makes me more confident, makes me feel good, right? It makes me feel like connected to God in a way, like I'm helping people, right? So that's what a lot of healers say. And yeah. So I would say, yeah, with there with love overall, there would be a big, a big desire for consistency and fairness, and a big need to, but also like, higher there's be like a lot of romantic energy, really wanting to have like that kind of soulmate type of love, right? But it's just important to really have that discernment, and that all comes from, yeah, the inner work that then reflects outwards. So yeah. Um, but yeah, well placed Juno. So I think that yeah, it's just about also really finding relationships where you're able to express your feminine, where you're able to, nurture, where you're able to, what was I gonna say? Yeah, to have that nice balance where it's not codependent, you're so codependent where it's like, I need that other person to be happy. I need that relationship to define me to be happy. It's not, it's really about like having a relationship and still, having that balance between space and your own individual freedom. And yeah. Yeah, balance between Aries and Libra, balance between, you know, and that's also your, your Venus and your moon, right? So your Mars and your Venus, right? And that's the opposition. So yeah. So I think also Venus opposite Mars, it can create like very fierce relationships. There can be quite a bit of drama, because like what can happen is that when someone with that loves someone, they really have strong feelings. They're very passionate, almost like sometimes even dramatic displays of affection. Um, and it can just sometimes be a lot for someone else, right? It can be like feels like, and it gets a lot easier with time, right? But it can be something, yeah, where it's like feeling coming on too strong, that kind of thing. Um, so it's really, yeah, someone who like matches your intense passion, right? So yeah, but I would say like with that one that yeah, there can just be like a very there can be like a very high sexual level too, but there's a need to have other, it's also very physical. So like working out and having like something physical that you're doing can be really, really important. But yeah, it can really create those sort of love hate relationships. But that can also come out in any kind of creative self expression, right? Venus and Mars. So it really is dynamic. So yeah, and then yeah, with Neptune and Mars, like I was saying before, it really does make one yeah have like really create like that special mission in life. But there the issues that there can be sometimes a level of vagueness around how one moves. um so yeah, I think with that there's also like, and then with midheaven in Taurus, there's having like some kind of stability, even like some level of stability, right? I also have midheaven in Taurus, right? So it can be an entrepreneur, but like having like that level where you feel like very grounded, like a lot of love energy when you are doing what you're doing, right? It gives you that groundedness. Um, so yeah. Mm. What else did I say about Mars square Neptune? Yeah, I think I pretty much said a lot of people that are quite brave too, when it comes to fighting for, a cause they truly believe in and care about. Um, but like, yeah, also one thing I would add with that is that there can be a level of like they can sometimes people with that they can give up on themselves too fast, which as a Taurus sun, that it gives you the ability to be consistent, right? Have that consistency. However, let me see, you don't have much fire in the chart. You have Venus, but um, and then yeah, so it's like, one issue with that can be difficulties with self-starting, right? And then with the Libra stuff too. So it really is important to have that, to really garner that assertiveness within and to really just go towards things um that you care about. So yeah, really, really important not to be too hard on yourself with that one too. And to because it can bring like also like misunderstandings, um like expecting one thing to happen, whether it's in love or in life, and then some other thing happens. That just goes like the need to like have a partner where you really know who that person is. Like, it's hard to explain. Like there's people who you just know who they are, and it's like that's like real trust, right? Also, with this one, what I noticed is you have to avoid any kind of gossip or talking about people behind their back, because it can actually create a level of suspicion. Um, so yeah, one has to really make an extra effort to be honest and appear honest. So yeah, staying far away from any kind of gossip, lies, stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it is just about yeah, having faith in yourself, right? Just like trusting, even when you feel scared or weak, that things are just going to be okay. Garnering through prayer, meditation, whatever it is, that relationship with the divine, and it's easier said than done, but yeah, it really pushes one to truly learn true self-confidence and not be the victim, to really stand their ground. And yeah, that's a big part of that one. um so Black Moon Lilith in Sag, the way I would look at that, that's like the part of your chart that's like you um how one can like self sabotage, but it's not an actual planet, so it's just a potential. So to me, I've always seen that one as, and I just made a video about this today, just the importance of always knowing that there's always more to learn, you know? Um, Sometimes people with that, they can spend so much time on their they could have learned a bunch in their life, but they can sometimes have issues when it comes to like they can be overly dogmatic sometimes. But I also think that with Sag, Black and Lilith, there can be like a fear of meaninglessness. Um and you know, I would say like there can be a lot of questioning whether other people are being truthful. Like a lot of issues around like what you know the true meaning of life is. So what is the real spiritual truth? Am I being lied to? Are my beliefs real? But also, yeah, it can sometimes be like throwing your beliefs too much on other people. So there's a need to just understand that everyone comes to truth in their own way. Um, and it just comes from like, not just all like not just constantly questioning everything, just really like it's all about that faith, just believing, right? And yeah. So at the end of the day, I think another part of it is, also finding your in true and authentic individual truth. What is your truth? What do and not needing to kind of like believe what other people believe. Um, but yeah, I would say like with all the stuff going on in that fourth, it'd be third and Placidus. I don't know if you have siblings, that could indicate issues with siblings if you have them, or like the early schooling environment could have been very testy. Um, and yeah, like just like having like sort of a mistrust with communication and really just like it's like the development of confidence around you speaking your truth and not feeling like you have to abide by rules, right? But yeah, a lot of this really shows that I would imagine like the childhood and early home life having been quite difficult and challenging with whether it's trauma there or just a lot of restriction. But one of the keys here is that you have to go, and this is with the Cancer North Node too. There's a need to go back into that childhood, into the karmic past, whatever it may be. Because with those planets on the IC, they oppose midheaven. So the career, when you have Pluto on the IC, it is it's detrimental if one doesn't do their inner healing. It has an effect on their ability to truly succeed in life. So there is a really big need, not to live in the past, but to handle things and to create the necessary boundaries needed for success overall. So yeah. And I think another thing with Venus Mars is that it can, and this speaks as a big theme in your chart with love, is like it's that potential struggle of finding balance between your needs and the needs of your partner, and between closeness and freedom, right? So it's like wanting all that adventure and individuality, but then also that closeness to the partner. So it's like Libra, the balance is it's yeah, it's the balance between those two, and you can definitely have both. And yeah, I think also, your career, your purpose is just super, super massive. I mean, in Placidus, your sun would be in the 10th, in full signs in the 11th with Chiron there. So there a lot of times with that, I see that a good amount. There's a need to heal how one is able to feel confident when they put themselves out to the public or just in the real world. but so much of your life purpose is in that area. But then with your ruling planet, the moon, your Cancer rising, so moon rules your chart. It's very important for you to follow the lunar cycle. You'll see that you'd be more affected by that than others. Um, and just overall, just being able to really, connect with, like I said, like with those deep emotions and all childhood, all the stuff I was talking about before. And to have an outlet for your voice, to really be able to speak your emotions, right? If we look at it as the third house, it's, yeah, being able to truly authentically speak what you really, really feel and not feel like you have to hold back or be different, right? So also with the sun quincunx, meaning it's 150 degrees away from the moon, um, like I was saying before, there can be very inconsistent moods. So it can, there can be like a level of anxiety that can come up, um, like between your masculine and your feminine, the emotional and feminine side, and the more assertive masculine side. So it's really about finding the balance between those two. So between and it is, Taurus and Libra, so they're both Venus ruled, but the real balance is, you know, by being able to have that communication and that more sociability, right? Because Libra is a social sign, and then also that groundedness and that consistency. Um, but yeah, not like letting one of the sides dominate, right? So, um, yeah, what else did I say about that? I think also with that there can be a potential to like want to do too many things, and it could be good to just like say, okay, I like all these things, but maybe dialing it down to like one or two and really focusing on those, like when it comes to career and just goals in general. Um, Also, like that quincunx on a health astrology level, it can create I said anxiety, um, because of that changeability. So, yeah, there can be health imbalances. So, that just comes from like really, really needing to balance and to have groundedness, to have daily routines, even with Uranus in the sixth house, Neptune there, where you have a routine that's healing to you, that's connecting you. I think Neptune sixth house people is the best thing they can do is prayer and meditation. Um, but yeah, need for freedom, of course, right? And yeah. But there is, with Sun in aspect the Moon, there is a lot of energy that's created from that geometric, that angular relationship, right? So you're able to have more energy than most others to actually tackle any kind of negative habits and really look at your life and think, okay, take inventory. I need to let go of this. I need to let go of that. Keep this. Keep that. Um, yeah. But that one is an aspect that is linked to karmic guilt as well. Um, so that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the need to really remove that. Um, like just being worthy, understanding your worthiness and self-love. And one of the best things that best ways to deal with that is to look back at your life. You can use writing. It can be a very valuable thing for you, writing, journaling, to take inventory and to kind of see how far you've come, because it's really easy for us as humans to like have massive growth. And that's one thing I got when I wrote my book called Pisces Live Nine Lives. It kind of showed me like, damn, I've been through a lot, like, because it's very easy for us to move on from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and all this growth. But then we're so, like what's the next, what's next, that we lose sight of how much we've actually done, you know? So yeah. Okay. So yeah, and then part of fortune is also, it's interesting. It's around my moons. That means that I'm not gonna say that means I was meant to tell you I was meant your part of fortune. No, obviously, but it's just interesting. That's exactly, it's less than a degree away. It's, my moon is 21 Sag, yours is 20 and a half Sag, your part of fortune, and that just shows how how you're at your best when you are like kind of in your flow state, when you're acquiring a level of wisdom and truth, when you're able to travel, um, when you're really living an adventurous life, living life to the fullest. Um, yeah, and sixth house, that's just like service equals joy, right? And organization, your daily life, your routine that I keep talking about, right? Right? That's like yeah, important. So also Black Moon Lilith, sixth house, that could make it so like if you work in a company, like you might have coworkers that you have problems with, or that maybe like, yeah, like cause you issues. Um, so and yeah, um, so yeah, like working in the right type of environment is really important, I would say. Yeah, it just also goes back to the need to really organize your daily life, and it might, yeah, like I said, like okay, I don't like talking about myself, but like when I have things, like obviously I know my experience, like my daily life is not organized. I mean, okay, it's not conventional. So like to one person, they might be like, that's not organized at all. But to me, it is, even though it's super unconventional, right? I still get my stuff done, and I just understand. So that's what it is. It's about understanding how your energy works. Like I eat once a day, right? That's just all. I don't need to eat. I literally only get hungry at night once. That's it. You know, and it feels good for me. When I eat, I lose all my energy, so I don't want to do that. But for others, they need food, right? So it's really understanding what works for you, right? And I think also Black Moon and Sag, also another thing is it's that energy of like, if you, let's say metaphorically, you are a chariot with nine horses, it's like they're all, one's going this way, one's going that way, one's going this way, one's going that way. So it's about really like getting those in order and having all these parts of you going towards one focused goal, right? So yeah. Also, Black and Lilith and Sag sometimes can throw themselves into new, like they can be a little bit, and this doesn't really go with the rest of your chart because there are lots of things that would make you more conservative and think things through more. But just I'm just gonna say it anyways, like a lot of people, Black and Lilith and Sag, sometimes they can be a little bit reckless in terms of throwing themselves into new things. But I don't know how much that would apply with all the stuff going on, other stuff in your chart. Um, let's see. And yeah, like as a Cancer rising, Cancer risings, they tend to come off very familial. Like people can like meet them and really feel comfortable with them. They usually are, they can be quite shy. Usually like wait there, until they feel comfortable before asserting themselves into a situation or asserting themselves in general. But they give off a vibe that's very, very chill. And the fact that you have Cancer and Taurus, like those two, Sun and Ascendant, you're gonna be someone that people feel very, very comfortable around. Probably a very, very warm aura, energetic kind of, yeah. And yeah, Yeah, just definitely a truth seeker, even someone that could be like a teacher, someone that can really teach people great things, and um yeah, just that need for freedom to express creativity and to have fun in life, right? So Ceres and Scorpio in the fifth, um, that's like Haley calls it your second moon sign. Not like as important, obviously, I mean close, but it's yeah. So Scorpio Ceres is just like really feeling secure and cared for and nurtured when there's kind of this intense love in your life. Um, yeah, 1 second. I'm looking for something. Yeah, so having like very like kind of like deep transformational relationships with people is very important for Ceres and Scorpio. Like really also wanting to go deep into um you know like the Jupiter and Scorpio, like also just like really wanting to go deep into information and learn a ton about the world and everything like that. And also there's lots of really good things for children in your chart. I want to just add that in there, and having like a good relationship with them, and very interesting kids too. If you have kids. Yeah, there's a lot in this. Let me see. Yeah, vertex in Aquarius could just make it so your metaphoric doorway to higher awareness is through doing things for the collective. And even if you look at your 11th house, if your son in the 11th house in whole signs, that is a lot of times it's like someone who's has a very important purpose for the collective, and sometimes it takes them lots of trial and error to get to that place, or it's like the accumulation of a lifetime of work that gets them. Sometimes it can be sometimes later in life that their purpose, their true purpose, like comes out. um yeah, because with the Chiron, like I said, like sometimes there is a need to get past different traumas related to having the public confidence. So yeah. Um, and also with Mercury in the 12th, you have to like watch out for like, being in like when you're in large groups of people, you can like take on a lot of the energy of other people. Um, so it's important to know how to separate what's yours and what's not yours. And that goes back to the whole guilt aspect too, or guilt and negative emotion aspect also. Um, yeah. And I always know when I have a Mercury Gemini person, I can like talk as fast as I want to talk because they, especially with opposite Uranus, like definitely like a fast processing speed for sure. Yeah, I mean, it could even be something like a researching, like some, like something that's more behind closed doors. Um, it could be something in like yeah, more behind the scenes type deal potentially. But overall, like your sun's so close to midheaven, like you are meant to make, to really like your dharma, your purpose is really really important for you. But obviously there's so much, it's so multifaceted everything in this chart. Also, I'll just stay with Mars square Neptune. Like, see, when if you like read about that, like people will always say like, you know, don't use substances. You know, you can have like issues with them, potential for addiction, loving escapism too much. Um, but what's interesting with me is that I've seen a lot of my clients with that who have like parents who had substance issues, or like they got that message early on, like not to go that route. So like I've actually seen like the opposite, but just like avoiding drugs and alcohol is really good for that. As I put these nicotine patches in my pouches in my underneath my mouth. Um, in my gums. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Ceres is also an Aquarius. That's a little bit more about, you know, what you find most sacred. It's also like related to work. And yeah, eighth house, best or Vesta, not Ceres, I said Ceres. Vesta, yeah, it's like the flame. And it really is you know, like the mysteries of life. There's like a commitment towards discovering those. Um and it gives lots of like metaphysical, you know, ability to really understand like metaphysical truths. um yeah, and it can be difficult to be with the Sirius and Scorpio, in that to be around people who are afraid to dive beneath the superficial. You know, you want to be able to do that. um and then Vesta and Aquarius, those people, once again, another theme, they love to have freedom in their work, right, and escape from that regular routine. You see how astrology, it's like all these different things in different parts of the chart that say a similar theme. So yeah, and then there's a lot of commitment to, you know, anything humanitarian, any kind of like cause, right? And just find, and also just like a commitment to like expressing your own individuality through your work. So then there is Pallas, which is with your Mars in Libra, and that just gives you like, that's like your mind, like the kind of that gives you ability to really plan and see the big picture, both sides of the story, and like bring opposing parties together, really be a great diplomat, a great, so these are all things you can use in career. I mean, being like diplomatic and being able to see both sides, like understanding someone's, you know, needs, like someone else's perspective, like that is so valuable in life, you know, in so many different areas of career life. If you lack air, like you're like, let's say like you're doing something like marketing, or let's say it's business entrepreneurship, right? Like if you understand like the needs of like how someone else is seeing something, like that's where the Libra can be really really good in business. It's scales, right? Like the thing of like a market scales. It's because they can really see, they can be very good at seeing, understanding other people's perspective, understand like what someone else would want in a situation. So you know that can be really really good. So I want to see. Hold on, where did I put that? I wrote something. Yeah. I think also with Mars retrograde, there can be like a level of um, like using a lot of energy, reliving past experiences. So it can kind of make someone who's like very much in the past. Um, so yeah, it can be more of like the energy like being directed inwards. Um, so yeah, there's like, I think Mars retrogrades, they definitely need, yeah, they're here to like find like develop that rightful action that's really in line with what they really want to bring, right, to the table. So yeah, it's interesting. I think one really thing, one from a karma perspective, thing I find really interesting about Mars retrograde and Mercury retrograde is that they can try to unconsciously find people places, things, whatever that recreate past life themes, um, or like people that can kind of like symbolize those, um, and so that they can act out what they were not able to express in past lifetimes or what they were not able to do in past lifetimes. So yeah, and also there can be, lots of energy. There can be, yeah, like it kind of with that Mars Venus opposition, like that kind of coming on too strongly, energy can happen. So just, all these things are good to know about, right? Okay, let's check these out. Open, open, open. Okay, what's that? Ooh, so you have Cassandra on your sun. Cassandra is this asteroid that's related to like princess like beauty. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're very beautiful. And union on midheaven that can make you very like just have a relationship that could be like, I guess you could say, really important for your career slash your big picture development. It could even be like where your relationship or marriage or whatever like has like a big impact on your public persona and how you're seen. And you have a more on Mercury, so you're able to speak with a level of love, of unconditional love. And also Mercury in the 12th is really good at understanding the zeitgeist, like the undercurrent, the societal undercurrent. So that's a huge asset. Okay. Okay, that one's there. Okay, asteroid Lilith is on your Venus, and that is very interesting because that is one of the three witch asteroids. So it's kind of like the woman who doesn't get pushed around, who's willing to stand up for herself, which like in this very masculine world, who can kind of just it's kind of like a boss woman type vibe. And also, it can be related to like, yeah, just being like that witch energy being very, very prominent. Um, then you have a star called Castor. Um, let me see what degree separation there is. Okay, so it's like 1.5, so it's not right on there. But yeah, Castor on the ascendant, and you're born, yeah. Um, it can create, yeah, like scholars, people who are really good with words, um, you know, really good with music and art, speaking. It's good for looks too, good for business, and good for, creating like good connections and relationships. Also, like Vega on your descendant is good for that also. And yeah, it's just good for success. It's a good one for success. Um, learning, honor, all that stuff. So yeah, that is a nice star to have. And how far is Vega? It's also that's like 2 degrees away, so that's kind of like barely. Yeah, that one's not really an orb. Let me see if you have any. Let's go to reports. So yeah, and your Mercury is out of bounds. So and then it starts here 15, 46. Yeah. Oh, okay. 20. 22, 24, 11, 1, 0. So yeah, Mercury out of bounds. That's just someone who, yeah, just really like is outspoken, and so someone who yeah, who just it just speaks more to that freedom of thought and speech that you have to think of the impossible, to think outside the box, you know? So yeah, and like I said, to really, really dig into the undercurrents of society and understand, like, you know, it could even be kind of psychic, right? So but yeah, like also like 12th house Mercury, yeah, like being of service is the best, but sometimes there can be like that, yeah, that lack of self-confidence and issues with like self-expression and wanting to really retreat a lot with the Saturn on the moon too. But yeah, like very like great access to the kind of dream world, kind of the spiritual world, all that stuff. So yeah, really, yeah, really able to tap into the collective unconscious, your own unconscious. Um, yeah, very good for intuition. Definitely, yeah. Like I would say writing could be super magical for sure. Um, Natural psychologist for sure. And I'd say 12th house Mercury, like they tend to like have a lot of self-talk, you know, like lots of like kind of in Jupiter retrograde too, like lots of like conversations with themselves. But yeah, once again, it's all about being able to speak out to yourself on speak your emotional truth. Huge part of the chart. And you know, making sure that you're getting away from feeling guilt or shame when you're expressing yourself. It's like, you know, truth, like at the end of the day, like expressing one's truth is everything, you know? Like if you're expressing something that's not authentically you, then you know that energy is not yours. It's not, you know, it's not you putting you out into the world. So yeah, I think a lot of it also goes down to any kind of like thought patterns that might not be so good, and really, really dialing down what those are. All right. Well, yeah, so not so many aspects in your chart, so that makes it easier. Um, so yeah. Um, so yeah, let me see. I think you just got the reading, right? Yeah. So yeah, if you want to do, so what most people do is that they get the reading, and then they get like the follow-up in current astrology. That's like a live session. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll give you a nice discount. Usually it would be around like 500 and something. I'd be willing to do that for 350. And it would be a 3 hour session where the first hour is the follow up. So that's just us comparing what I said today with your lived experience. And then hour 2 and 3, usually, sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes a little less. We talk about all the transits, all like kind of like the year plus ahead for you, you're the right now, like where you're at energetically. You know, this is natal astrology. This chart, everything I said today never changes, is, you know, your natal chart, but we always have current astrology, whether it's a tough transit, progression. I go into everything to really, you know, equip you for the time ahead. So I'll write down that I offered it for 350 because that's like, you know, very low compared to the actual value, but I'd be happy to do that. So yeah, just let me know. Hope you enjoyed. lots of stuff in this chart, lots of themes. So yeah, thank you so much for everything, and have a nice day slash night slash whatever. All right. Ciao, ciao.